This is CBC Here and Now.
My heart just ached that they had been through that ordeal.
She's the Las Vegas guardian angel that took care of these Newfoundlanders.
I was drawn to them and their goodness.
Inside solitary confinement.
They shut down physically, they shut down mentally.
Will a change in policy make a difference?
It's very difficult.
David Collins' family speaks out.
There have been two families that have been torn apart.
After a chilly couple of days, they'll be hanging up the warm coats across parts of the island. I'll let you know how mild temperatures are going to get.
So let's get to our top story. St. John's mother is doing her part to combat dangerous driving in her West End neighborhood.
Joni Perry-Sears lives on a busy section of Topsail Road and says she often sees cars ignore the flashing stop sign on her son's school bus.
As Here Now's Mark Quinn reports, she's turned to social media for help. Mark?
That's right, Debbie. Joni Perry-Sears said she got really tired of seeing cars passing school buses. Even though they had flashing stop signs on them, she got tired of seeing that and she started taking videos of it. She posted those videos on social media, on Twitter, and that caught the attention of the police. Police called her and they came and parked here on Topsail Road near her home. And they actually, she says, stopped a few cars. Videos were posted back on Monday, but she said they've been here all week and they've been stopping at cars. They've stopped 3 cars already. Now, Joni Perry-Sears spoke with CBC and she talked about exactly why she's so concerned about this.
Because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous area. It always has been. And passing a school bus in any area is a dangerous decision to make. And I wanted there to be more awareness because I know a lot of people probably don't know that they're supposed to stop even in 4 lanes. But ignorance isn't really an excuse.
Now, Perry-Sears says that people shouldn't assume that children or even teenagers are fully aware of what's around them. They really should follow this law, and the law is clear. And she says she'll keep posting those videos until she's certain that her son is safe and people stop passing buses with this flashing stop signs. I'll have more about this in the show coming up on Here and Now.
Well, this is the area where a young boy was knocked down by a vehicle last evening. Angie Marr's 6-year-old son was struck while he was crossing the street on the way to a friend's house with his grandmother. He is now in the Janeway with broken bones and a possible punctured lung. Marr says speeding is the problem in the area, even though police say the driver who hit the child was not going over the speed limit. In June, Marr contacted City Hall with her concerns. She says she was told to start a petition and then pass that on to city staff to be reviewed.
One man is dead after a highway crash early this morning on the southern shore. The single vehicle accident happened on Route 10 near Portugal Cove South. The 36-year-old driver was rushed to hospital where he later died. The family of David Collins, a well-known pharmacist who was killed last December, says his death has torn 2 families apart. Collins died following an incident at a home in Logie Bay, Middle Cove, Outer Cove, shortly before Christmas. 19-year-old Graham Vitch is charged with first-degree murder in relation to the death. The teen appeared in court this morning, but his case was set over until Friday because of what one lawyer referred to as new information. Vitch's mother was in a relationship and living with 55-year-old Collins at the time. Earlier today, Here and Now spoke with the family of David Collins at Provincial Court.
Yeah, we're a large family. There are 11 of us, and Dave was a very important piece of our family, and he's missed terribly. He was a great guy. He's a funny guy, gentle. Certainly, this was unexpected and very sudden. He's been a huge loss for us and to his friends and co-workers and the rest of our family. It's very difficult. There have been 2 families that have been torn apart, and there's no positive outcome. Yeah.
Fire damaged an historic building in St. John's early this morning. Firefighters rushed to the famed Majestic Theatre around 5 a.m. Sections of Duckworth Street and New Gower Street were closed and electricity was cut in the neighborhood. By morning rush hour, the fire was under control. It's believed the fire started on the outside, but eventually spread to inside the walls. The theater reopened just last week with several big events booked, including some Music NL shows next week.
It is obviously a setback. It's hard to speculate exactly how much damage there is, but I'm sure it's significant and it will, impede the operations of the theater for sure in the short term.
Well, pretty chilly, I would say, for firefighters there that early this morning, and it's been very chilly all week, really.
I know some people around here have been saying they've been turning on the heat in their homes.
Have you not?
No, I just keep it at a certain level, never change it.
Oh, wow.
But I did put the warm seat on in my vehicle.
My wife keeps turning the thermostat up saying, the baby's cold, the baby's cold. Really? Anyway, it has been chilly though. Have a look at some of the temperatures across eastern and central parts of Newfoundland this morning. 0.7 in St. John, so not quite the freezing mark, but that is our coldest temperature at the airport since way back on June the 8th. So certainly the coldest temp of the season so far. We did dip to the freezing mark or near to it across many parts of the Avalon, and especially in central Newfoundland, where we dipped below zero early through the overnight or mid-overnight, and then temperatures started to rebound and have been doing so through the day today as this nice southwest wind starts to push in. That will mean a much milder start to Thursday. In fact, a couple of showers clipping around, but overall not a bad start for most of the island tomorrow. That said, we are going to be seeing some periods of rain rolling up over to western parts of Newfoundland by the start of tomorrow. So umbrellas to start the day in the west. It's a dry and more mild start for central and east, and some scattered shower chances lingering for eastern parts of Labrador tomorrow. But I think it's a dry start in the west, though chilly. So a little taste of everything. We're talking double-digit starts for the southeast, the Avalon and the Burin. Mild start in central Newfoundland and dry. There's that rain for the west, and some -1 to start the day in western parts of Labrador. We'll talk about what Thursday afternoon holds and those shower chances, and that all-important Thanksgiving weekend forecast is still to come. Carolyn?
Thanks, Ryan. Well, changes are coming to the way inmates are segregated in prison in St. John's. The Justice Minister made the announcement at Her Majesty's Penitentiary this afternoon. Here Now's Ariana Kelland explains.
There are two types of segregation here. The first is disciplinary segregation, when an inmate breaks prison rules. They go before a board, which up until now could send an inmate to segregation for up to 15 days. No visitors, no recreation.
When a person goes into segregation, that type of segregation, after so many days they just shut down. They shut down physically, they shut down mentally, and they'll sleep for the full time in there. It's like they throw a switch on their body and they just turn everything off.
That stress and anguish, sometimes inflicted on inmates with mental illness, is the reason why there's change coming. Before, 15 days was the maximum time inmates could spend in segregation, but if they kept misbehaving, they could spend even more time there. Last year, Brophy assembled a team to review this type of segregation. Here are some of the recommendations. The new maximum time spent in seg is 10 days. Inmates will now be allowed to contact their family and have access to recreation. It's recommended mentally ill inmates shouldn't be placed in segregation at all and will have access to mental health professionals. And inmates can work toward getting out of segregation early.
I'd like to think again that we will be leaders in this country, that it will show increases in access to mental health treatment and activities.
One of the recommendations of the report also calls on a review of administrative segregation. That includes the Special Handling Unit, or SHU. A CBC Investigates piece last month highlighted concerns by inmate Calvin Kenny, who said he spent between 20 to 22 hours a day in the SHU for 4 months straight.
For administrative seg, it's a little even more tricky in some ways, is because there are no real limits to administrative seg. So people can be placed there for an extended period of time. And obviously for sometimes it's very necessary for safety reasons. They're at risk, themselves, their personal safety, or could be the safety of others in the institution. But I still think there needs to be oversight there as well, and there needs to be alternatives.
Owen Brophy says as long as there's prison, there will be segregation. But he hopes those who go in now will come out better than before. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
The Crown says serial rapist Sofiane Bolag continues to be a risk to society and should be declared a dangerous offender. Crown prosecutor Tricia McCarthy made her arguments today at Provincial Court in St. John's. Here now's Glenn Payette reports.
Sofiane Bolag is still dangerous. That's according to Crown Prosecutor Tricia McCarthy. McCarthy says he's shown indifference to the impact of what he did to his victims. He had a knife when he raped 2 women in St. John's 5 years ago and had a stick or something similar when he raped a teenager during the same time frame. McCarthy said he continued his assaults despite his victims pleading for him to stop. McCarthy also said the assessment from a forensic psychiatrist shows that Bolag is more concerned about the effect this has had on him than his victims, and that he has no insight into his sexual deviance. She says he has contempt for Canadian women, says they are dirty and disrespectful of men. Bolag is from Algeria. McCarthy says Bolag is no different now than he was 5 years ago when he committed the rapes. And even though the court has been told rehabilitation is possible, it's not known how long that would take. She says he should be declared a dangerous offender so he can be kept in custody and treated until professionals in the penal system feel it's safe to release him. Bolag has been in custody since he was arrested 5 years ago. McCarthy says that if Judge Pamela Golding doesn't declare him a dangerous offender, she should sentence him to prison for 17 years for the rapes. The matter is back in court on Friday. Glenn Payette, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it's been a year since protests at Muskrat Falls ramped up, making international headlines. To mark the anniversary, members of the group called Labrador Land Protectors held a walk in Happy Valley Goose Bay.
No, sir, they did not break us. And what happened once can happen again.
The project's opponents reflected on the past year as they walked last night. 3 weeks after they started, the protests peaked. There were injunctions, arrests, and a shutdown after protesters broke into and occupied the site's living quarters. It all stopped after Indigenous leaders struck a deal with the Premier.
We walked away thinking that things would be dealt with, in a timely manner, that all of the concerns that were put to the table were going to be addressed. And here we are a year down the road, and in fact, nothing has been addressed. So we've lost a year of momentum in terms of this, our group, the Labrador Land Protectors group has lost a lot of momentum. And it's sad.
The former Deputy Grand Chief of the Innu Nation says he's discouraged with the lack of progress regarding an inquiry into Innu foster children in care. Simeon Chakapesh spoke at a mental health awareness event today in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Chakapesh called for the inquiry earlier this year after his son, Thunderheart, took his own life. He's calling on federal, provincial, and Innu leadership to get the inquiry going.
I want to know what's going on. I need some answers, because I lost my son over their system. So I need to know. I am not going to stop. I will start putting posters in their government buildings and give them a message. Me and my wife are going to do that, because I need to know why my son died in their own system.
Late this afternoon, the Innu Nation and the provincial government issued a joint statement. They say they have invited the federal government to take part in the inquiry and that the federal government is considering the request.
Still with that mental health awareness event in Happy Valley Goose Bay today, many people shared their experiences and concerns about mental health.
In 2007, when I first started feeling these symptoms, I did not know one other person in the world that had depression. I didn't hear about it, it just wasn't spoken about very much. So I think the stigma around it, even today, 10 years later, is still pretty heavy.
Yeah, there definitely still is a stigma, unfortunately. It has gotten better throughout the years, but it still is there, and I do agree that yes, it still may hold some members back from coming forward to talking about it. But that's why we're trying to get the word out that it's a common occurrence. The statistics here were showing, I think, 22% of people suffer from a mental illness. So it is very common in people, and it's really just trying to get people to feel comfortable with talking about it and just get rid of that stigma completely.
Well, it's a common sight around the city of St. John's right now, busted parking meters. Councillor Sandy Hickman feels it's time to get rid of parking meters altogether and find a different pay system. He says almost 300 meters are out of service right now, and that's a quarter of all the meters in the city. Vandalism and maintenance issues force the city to replace around 700 meters in the past couple of years. Hickman likes the approach of other cities that use central kiosks to pay for parking, where you put the receipt under the windshield to show proof of payment. Hickman would like to see a small-scale pilot project of the kiosk pay system in St. John's.
We'll look for that.
Yes.
Now, plenty of people have been seeing celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain all around the province, and he has been getting around.
He certainly has. The host of CNN's Parts Unknown is here filming an episode of his show, and here's a look at what he's been up to.
Tonight, the annual In Her Name Vigil is being held at the Colonial Building. That's where they remember murdered or missing women and girls in this province. I'll have more details coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Here and Now. An annual event to recognize missing and murdered women and girls from this province is happening in St. John's tonight. It's being held at the Colonial Building in Bannerman Park.
And tonight, new names are going to be added to the list of more than 100. They will be read out loud so they are remembered and honored.
Yes, and Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton joins us now live from Bannerman Park. So Jeremy, what names are being added to the list tonight?
Well, the event is, you can hear some sound in the background, the event is about to get underway. Tonight, they're going to read out 117 names. Now, organizers say, sadly, 2 new names will be added. One of those is Courtney Lake. The other is Rihanna Griwacheski. Now, it was just last month that the 18-year-old Griwacheski was murdered by her boyfriend, Jeff Kilfoy, who later died by suicide. Griwacheski is originally from Regina, but had been living in Marystown. Now, family and friends remembered her as a teenager with a heart of gold and a lover of animals. Then, in June, 24-year-old mother Courtney Lake went missing. Now, her death has been ruled a homicide, but right now, nobody has been arrested for that death. And despite volunteers' best efforts, her body has not been recovered. Now, they're just about to get underway here at the Colonial Building, so family, friends, and supporters will go up to the microphones one by one and take turns reading out the 117 names of murdered or missing women or girls in this province. Reporting live in St. John's, I'm Jeremy Eaton for Here and Now.
How 3 young men who were caught up in the Las Vegas shooting rampage on Sunday finally arrived back home in Newfoundland. They were still shaken up but were unharmed, and they owe a lot to the kindness of a complete stranger. There were tears and hugs for the friends who had been at the concert in Las Vegas. 59 people were shot to death and more than 500 injured. It was clear the experience was still sinking in, but also clear their gratitude to an American woman who took them under her wing.
She drove us from the airport, picked up Chris because he wasn't with us. He was on the strip, which was like very dangerous at that point. Picked him up, drove us back to her house, said we drove us anywhere we wanted, drove us back to our hotel the next day to get our luggage back to her house. Took us to the Hoover Dam, took us out to see a bunch of other things. Drove us back to the airport. Yeah.
And the woman who helped the young Newfoundlanders get through the ordeal, Rhonda Burnside Mitchell, joins us from Las Vegas. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Now, Chris, Jeff, and Andrew were at the airport after running away from the concert site, and you happened to be there too to pick up your daughter. But how did you meet these guys?
As I was there, I had been drawn to some TVs that were playing in the situation, and I'd been there quite a while, and an influx of about 8 kids walked in. And I don't know why I was drawn to these particular kids. There was a lot more, but they made the statement that they had been there and had escaped from that. And my heart just ached that they had been through that ordeal. And I just started talking with them and getting to know more about them, and they were so shaken up. I wanted to do what I could, and I kept feeling like I was so sad that they had saw that part of Vegas, because that wasn't Vegas. That wasn't the Vegas I knew.
They were pretty scared, weren't they?
They were traumatized. They really were traumatized, and it was still processing in them as they were learning more information, and that information kept coming actually for numerous more hours.
So Rhonda, what happened next? After you were drawn to these young men, what did you do?
I wanted to do anything I could to help, and there were 3 other girls there from Northern California. And as I got speaking with them, they needed to retrieve their stuff and get back to the airport. And as I talked with them further, their stuff was away from the direction of what stuff had happened. And I just said I'd be more than willing to drive you to your Airbnb. And they were going to meet up with friends there. They assured me that they had a car and would be fine to that point. It was really pretty close to the airport. And so then we set out to figure out if we could do that. After I got them back to their Airbnb, I still needed to pick up my daughter and son-in-law from the airport, trying to find out if they would even be in that night. But I promised the girls that had just met these young men that I would go back and make sure they and another girl that was a Newfoundlander that they just ran into, her name was Ashley, that I would go check on them and make sure that they were okay. And so when I got back to the airport, I went back up to where I left them and just did what I could to help them.
So Rhonda, tell us about your offer to bring them to your very own house.
They were traumatized, and at that point, all of the hotels had been shut down. You couldn't get in or out. It was late. They didn't know how long they were going to be there. And I just wanted to offer them what I could. And I said, I live on the edge of Vegas. I would be more than happy to have you come back. And realizing at that point, too, for whatever reason, I gave him my name and my phone number. And we friended each other on Facebook. And I said, your parents are welcome to stalk me on Facebook and learn more about me. I didn't know how else to put them at ease. You know, I don't know why, but I believe in doing for others what you can. I believe that if we all do what we can for each other, it's just such a better world.
Now, Rhonda, you made this offer to the boys or the young men to take them to your home, but you didn't go to your house right away, did you?
Oh, I did not. And there was one other friend that was with them that got separated from them. And he needed to get that friend too. And so he asked me, he had found the friend and he was held up or what, I don't know, had found a secure place in a hotel room. At first I thought it was with friends, but it wasn't. It was just people that he had also escaped with when they got separated. And so we went, and as we headed back, we weren't headed away from the danger, which I was comfortable with. We were headed up to Las Vegas Boulevard where the danger had incurred. That was hard.
I mean, you put yourself in harm's way. I mean, not many people would do that.
It's kind of, I hadn't even processed this. You do what you can for your fellow men. And as we were doing that, I think at any point, if I would have felt there was danger for us and the others in the van, I don't know what I would have done. As we very cautiously went up into that area and weaved our way, and I knew Vegas. These poor kids didn't know Vegas. They don't know the back streets. They don't know where to go and stuff. But as we were following literally an app on somebody's phone to get there, we all still felt safe. And we did go in the back way and not up onto the strip. But even at that point, I felt just from experiences that I'd had that Metro or the police had it under control. But yeah, that I think was the hardest part of any of it was going to get Chris. But I couldn't leave him either.
The young men told us last night that, you know, they're still trying to digest everything. I'm wondering about for you, Rhonda, how has this affected you? Have you processed it yet?
I'm still processing. I'm processing the evil of this man. And my heart aches for his family that now has to deal with that. It also aches for the people that lost loved ones. It was a tragedy, and the biggest thing I can say is there is evil in this world, but there's not just evil, there's good. There's a lot of good. And it was truly a joy to have these boys in our home. And I have love in my heart for them and for their families, and so sorry that they had to go through this. There are really good people, and I don't know, I think too, I felt their goodness when I was talking to them. When I did get home and laid in bed after I got everybody home, I did think for a minute, what have I done? I don't know these people, and I had a very calm feeling, almost somebody saying to me, "You're just fine. These are good kids." And didn't have any problems after that or any questions in my mind. They truly were great young men, and I'm sorry that they've gone through this experience.
Well, I know they and their families feel very strongly about you, an angel at that moment for them. And thank you so much for speaking with us, and I wish you well.
You too, thank you, and good luck to all of you guys, and God bless.
Remarkable story and such raw emotions. And it's so nice to see a story like the kindness of strangers after such a dark, awful event. So.
Rhonda did tell me after we were chatting that she'd love to come to Newfoundland. It's probably not going to happen. But she also wanted to tell the young men's parents, though, what fine boys they raised.
Up next, why this parent is upset about what she says is the sudden cancellation of French immersion courses in Marystown.
This weather update is brought to you by the Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Over 400 businesses have saved energy and taken charge of their bottom line. Find out how you can too.
talking about how chilly it's been, but it's going to take a little bit of a turn, right?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, so double digits to start the day tomorrow, so a big contrast from what we've been seeing. And the warm temps hanging out, we'll take a bit of a dip Saturday, but really warm temps, teen temps right through the weekend. So that's some good news. Now that's Newfoundland. Labrador is almost the exact opposite. Single-digit highs over the next couple of days and even some flurries mixing in. So there's always so much weather to jam in. Yeah, your weather on the way headlines. When I say your fireplace and your furnace take a break on the island, which certainly furnaces have been cutting in over the last couple of mornings. Labrador, not so much. Your furnace and your fireplaces will be on the go. Shower chances do continue. And, of course, keeping an eye on the gobble-gobble forecast and your Thanksgiving weekend is looking pretty decent as of now. Certainly some rain in the mix, but Saturday and Monday looking okay, and we'll talk more about that in the long range. A live look at Forto, and beautiful evening there, 10 degrees. Winds are light, but note that cloud that's building in. That is ahead of the next system, which is the Catch-22. It's warming us up. It's helping to bring in those southwest winds, keeping temps into the low teens for most of us, but certainly building in the clouds and even some rain moving into Labrador as we speak. Happy Valley Goose Bay is at 7 degrees, just 2 in Makkovik with an onshore wind from the Labrador Sea there. Westerly winds generally across Newfoundland, and this is the low, which is going to be slowly but surely trucking through the province tonight. We've got some showers ahead of it that have been rolling down the northeast coast. Couple of spits here in Metro, and that'll continue over the next couple of hours. And here's how it plays out with the future tracker, where you can see the best chance of showers tonight will be across the northern peninsula, southeastern parts of Labrador, and then the cold front will really start to roll in tonight and into the morning hours of Thursday. This is the best chance of even some showers at times heavy, not out of the question along this line for tomorrow morning. From Port aux Basques to Corner Brook up through the Straits to the northern peninsula. Scattered shower chances back across southeastern Labrador. Some wet snow very likely mixing in for Nain and Hopedale. And I think a mainly cloudy start for Labrador City. And you can see where we're dry and mild across the central and eastern parts of the island. We'll see some scattered shower chances into the afternoon, but that front really loses steam. You can see where it was rain in the west, and then it just kind of, lost its oomph, lost its juice as it moves across the central and east. And that'll be kind of the name of the game, where the clouds will certainly build into the afternoon. We'll see a couple of shower chances, but very light and scattered. As we move into Friday, another little wave will come through, and we'll talk more about that and its shower chances back on the menu for Friday. So, the forecast. Note the warmth in the east, because the southwest winds really have time as well as the sun to warm us up tomorrow. So we're talking 16, 17, 18 degrees. T-shirts for some. Those southwest winds will keep it maybe not quite T-shirt weather for everybody, depending on how warm-blooded you are. Now, as we take a look at the west parts of the island, we are looking at winds becoming a little more westerly. And with that flow off the Gulf, we're talking about temps likely in the 14-degree range. The showers will again push eastward through the day, so we'll get into the sun breaks for you folks into the afternoon hours, whereas the better shower chances are for the afternoon for central and especially the east. Now, for Labrador, again, that wet snow mixing in for a better part of the day possible for the north coast, and just single-digit temperatures with some afternoon showers for the west, and it's the showers clearing for the southeast. Weekend details in full in just a few minutes.
Eastern School District is pulling its French immersion program in Marystown next year. Parents with children registered to attend kindergarten at Sacred Heart Academy in 2018 are just being told of the decision. And that's not sitting well with parents like Jessica Reed, who's joining me from Marystown. Well, Jessica, your little girl is registered to start French immersion kindergarten next September. What have you been told now?
Well, Debbie, we're being told that our children are not going to be able to avail of the program next year. The school board are seemingly not going to budge on the decision. We've garnered a lot of support from Canadian Parents from French, the school council, our MHA Mark Brown, and we're working on others such as Dale Kirby. We have a lot of people in our corner, the town council, many parents of kids for next year and kids for years to come.
And what was the reason the school board gave you for their decision?
We're currently being told that due to declining numbers in enrollment in French, that they fear kids will drop out along the way and we will end up with very small classes if we continue to move on.
So how does that rationale sit with you, Jessica?
It doesn't sit well, as our numbers overall in kindergarten next year are at a lower number than previous years. So in retrospect, our percentages for enrollment in French immersion are on par with previous years at around 26.5%.
I'm just wondering, was there any indication before yesterday that this was even in the works?
No, parents were not informed until yesterday morning when we received calls from the school principal. After which I contacted members of CPF, Canadian Parents for French. They had no idea. Our school council was only informed the night before. MHA Mark Brown didn't know, and from what I understand, Dale Kirby's office had no idea of the goings-on either.
And what do you read into that?
It was a rash decision by the school board. It was a knee-jerk reaction to a one-year low count on the enrollment.
Now, what happens if this decision stands? What happens to the children that are already in French immersion at Sacred Heart?
Current enrollment will not be affected, as far as we're being told.
So as long as the kids have already been in the program, they'll continue till they graduate from that school?
Yes, they will.
Why is it important for you to have your children learn French? Because you have a little boy in grade 2, right?
Yes, I do. For me, to learn French as a second language is imperative for their future. I myself have a sister who is currently residing in New Brunswick. She has 2 stepchildren who are francophones, and for my kids to be able to converse with them if they come to visit or we visit would be amazing, not to mention the employment opportunities that it will provide them in the future.
Now, you have been talking about trying to gather support. You're mobilizing to fight this. What else can you do, and how much support do you think you'll get?
I'm hoping to get as much support as we could possibly gather together. We have a lot of government officials. We have Canadian Parents for French at the municipal, provincial, and working on the federal levels. We have started a petition online as well as a Facebook page. We have former graduates of the program, current enrolled students of the program writing letters of support. And we're just looking for anybody who can advocate for the benefits of French to come forward and help us out.
And Jessica, finally, I mean, how hopeful are you that this decision will be reversed?
We're very hopeful. We think that if we ruffle enough feathers and we keep our voices loud, that we will win the fight. I know that it's been done before in other regions of the province.
Jessica Reed, we'll leave it there, and we will be following the issue.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thank you. And just a note on this, the board has provided here now with a copy of a letter sent home to Kinderstart parents at Sacred Heart Academy today. In it, Lucy Warren, who is the district's Associate Director of Education, says no final decision has been made about next year's early French immersion program.
Yes, she says enrollment for the kindergarten French immersion program isn't high enough to warrant its own class just yet, but a final decision will be made in April.
Now, in the meantime, Kinderstart students will continue this year's program in English. Any families looking to switch from English to French are asked to contact board officials.
Do you know when to stop for a school bus? Getting it wrong could cost you very dearly. I'll tell you more coming up on Here and Now.
Welcome back once again. Well, earlier in the program, we told you about a St. John's mother who turned to social media to raise awareness about dangerous driving. She shared a video that shows drivers illegally passing a school bus.
And she's concerned that people don't know the rules of the road. And here now's Mark Quinn joins us now live with driving safety expert Rudy Singleton. Mark?
We can get mowed down here now. People wonder what we're doing.
Yes, so Rudy, what are the rules regarding passing school buses?
They're quite clear, actually. It just means that if the lights are activated, the bus, you cannot go in either direction. Can you pass the school bus with the lights activated? Meeting or overtaking is the way it is in the Highway Traffic Act. And the confusion here lies sometimes in the fact that passing means going in only in the same direction. That's not the case. If it's 2 lanes, 4 lanes, if there's no divider or no median, then you must stop in both directions when the lights are activated.
So if here on Topsail, for example, where there are 4 lanes, you have to stop in all of the 4 lanes.
Yes, you can't go either way if the lights are activated and the arm is out. It's a violation of the Highway Traffic Act.
And what's the penalty for breaking that rule?
Well, automatically it's a 6-point penalty, which is quite substantial. And I hear in the media that it's a $400 fine, but of course that can sometimes be amended as well or be altered given the circumstances surrounding the particular incident.
Now there is concern about, say, Metro buses or GO buses. Are the rules different for them?
Well, Mark, I can simply answer that simply, I think, by saying that it's the red light, the stop sign. Any stop sign, be it flashing solid on a sign or on a pole, that means stop. And the big confusion here lies with this going in both directions. If the roads are separated, fine, you'll almost stop if you're going in the direction of the bus. If the roads are not separated, you must stop in both directions.
So what do you think the key is to getting people to understand this and obey these rules?
Well, the key is public service announcements and educating people that it doesn't mean just going in the same direction as the bus. It means if you're passing by or overtaking the bus in either direction, you must stop. And stop within a designated distance when the stop arm and the lights are activated.
And do you think that people will actually pay attention to this now they're hearing more about it? Do you think social media could have a role in educating people about this?
Sure it will. In fact, this was precipitated by a lady being diligent and vigilant enough to do some videos. But Mark, what I always fear is that too many things are done in a reactionary manner after the fact. You know, what's it going to take? And the police are more than vigilant, their resources are stretched. The citizens, the motorists, have to take some responsibility. And if we don't, well, you know, the outcome might be tragic, and that's when it gets really, really serious. And then people say, well, why don't we? Well, why aren't we doing it now? Being attentive, that's a big thing.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rudy Singleton.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you very much.
And back to you, thank you. Live in St. John's, I'm Mark Quinn for Here and Now.
It is the blip that ushered in the space race. You're listening to Sputnik's first orbit as it played out on CBC Radio 60 years ago. Sputnik launched on this very day in 1957. The first artificial satellite gave the Soviet Union bragging rights in the Cold War.
Just 58 centimeters wide, it would be dwarfed by the spacecraft of today. Cassini, for example, was about the size of a school bus. Sputnik was powered by just 3 silver zinc batteries, but it packed more than enough power to kickstart the U.S. space program, too.
Time to introduce our young athlete of the day, and this is Carter Clove, St. John's, who's 11 years old and is in the Mosquito division of the St. John's Minor Baseball League.
Carter also enjoys playing basketball with his school.
Great work, Carter. You're today's young athlete of the day.
Nice. So, Ryan, these warmer temperatures that we're getting, is that because of all the activity down south? Like, is that why?
No, we just have a nice little setup over the next couple days. Winds are finally shifting to southerly, but with that shift to southerly winds, we will have to watch areas to the south and what might be coming up with those southerly winds, and that includes early next week when we could see the remnants of this system. Not expecting any, major impacts on Newfoundland and Labrador from this system. I think it will, given its track, but Tropical Depression 16 and what it does over the next few days, I'm certainly going to be keeping an eye on. Yes, again, still obviously tropical storm season. This could very well indeed become a hurricane over the next couple of days. And here's how it's going to shape up as we roll through the weekend. It will roll to the northward, perhaps making brief landfall, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. This is where it has the potential to become a Category 1 hurricane by the time we get to Sunday. Landfall somewhere in the vicinity of the eastern Gulf and then rolls up into, land, and so the system would dissipate quite quickly early next week, but could be caught up into a cold front, and those remnants may track into our neck of the woods at some point mid next week. But again, not too concerned about it at this point, but I'm keeping an eye on things. Here's how your satellite and radar picture is shaping up right now, which is showing a few showers into the mix across the island. Radar obviously not on the go in Labrador, but there are some rains moving in for you folks in Western Labrador, into the southeastern regions, still lingering tomorrow morning. This cold front will then move across the island, again weakening as it moves through. Still shifting the winds though, and so we will have an onshore wind for places like Corner Brook and the west coast tomorrow. That's why I think we're topping out near 14 degrees. Southwesterly winds ahead of the front will warm us up to 18 in the east, and we'll see a pretty cool day for most of Labrador. Single-digit highs, scattered shower chances for the afternoon in the west, and again, those clearing skies in the east. Now, this next little frontal trough, which was going to be moving through as we roll into the Friday time period, it's a pretty weak one, but enough to bring at least some scattered shower chances again to the island on Friday, starting in the morning in the west and then wandering eastward through the day. It's a late day Friday shower chance for St. John's in the east, but it's certainly in the forecast. Temperatures near 18 degrees once again, so another warm one. Once again in the single digits though in Labrador, just 2 in Labrador City, and in fact a pretty good chance of some wet flurries mixing in there as well as the north coast. And here's how we'll start your holiday weekend, and I think very quiet to start on the island. Sun and cloud mix, a little disturbance tracking into Labrador, may bring a spotty shower, though forecast models still a little at odds at that. The best chance is certainly into western parts of Labrador, and there he is. There's our gobble gobble, and he is looking pretty good. He's shaking because he's loving the look at that forecast on Monday. We're talking about high teens, even flirting with 20 degrees for central parts of Newfoundland.
Fantastic.
Yeah, again, watch for those rains coming through on Sunday, though far from a washout on the island. I think the wetter forecast for Sunday is in Labrador, but even Monday looking pretty good there. So we'll keep you posted over the next few days. And after the break, we've got our viewer picture. Where could this be taken? Well, I'll tell you, it's cooking with kayaks in the summer. Here's your clue.
Interesting.
Well, here's a story that's bound to get some tongues and tails wagging. This is an 8-year-old St. Bernard named Mochi. She is the Guinness World Record holder for the longest tongue on a dog.
Oh my goodness, it is more than 18 centimeters long, and if it's useful for anything, it's definitely for snacking.
That's peanut butter.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Oh, man. You know, I don't know why I'm imagining this, but it'd be a great tool to clean underneath the stove or the fridge at home. Put a little, throw a couple of dog treats underneath the fridge and let them go to town, right?
Okay, then. I wonder what your poor dogs get treated to.
Well, you know what they say, long tongue, big kisses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Big sloppy kisses.
Well, who was it saying? Rod Dobbin, our switcher director, saying if you were getting a kiss from that dog, it'd be all the way around to the back of your neck. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'd take
beautiful animal.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have anything else, or can we get right to the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the clue was probably a dead giveaway, wasn't it?
Let's have a look at the picture again.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
So this picture was from, again, Cape Broyle, which is down on the southern shore, and the clue was cooking with kayaks in the summertime because, of course, the great Stan Senior and Junior, the cooks who have had us down, of course, on the show numerous times. They do their kayaking business out of Cape Broyle, and what a shot that is, thanks to Luann.
That is gorgeous.
Like glass.
And that's
water.
a sunset picture, by the way.
Yeah, thanks very much, Luann. And that'll do it for us.
Yes.
Have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.